everyone, welcome back to another video. So today we're going to continue with the Rachel Mintz color along, and this is going to be the final video because we have finally gotten to the background. And a lot of you have left quite a few comments with suggestions for the background, and there were quite a few suggestions that I do a cloud background, and then there were other suggestions that suggested I use the Caran d'Ache NEOCOLOR 2, and I've not used them in quite a while, so I'm going to attempt to make a cloudy sky background with the Caran d'Ache NEOCOLOR 2. Now, I've never done this before, so we are going to be learning together. I did practice a little bit before I started filming the video to make sure I had it exactly the way I wanted it before I laid it down on my coloring page. I do practice quite a bit before I bring something to my page, before you do anything on your coloring page, so that you don't mess it up or you're unhappy with what you've done. Always test it out first and make sure it's exactly what you want. Now, if we look at the page, we have this dirt down here, and I only stopped it right to here where it stopped on the coloring page. And so I'm going to have to come back later and actually go over all of this, and I want to actually find a way to cover up the writing here as well. I don't know if these colors are going to be dark enough to cover this up. Since we're doing a cloud background, I want the clouds only here at the top, maybe coming down just a little bit about to here, and then I'm going to do most all of this blue around the outer sides of the bunny. And then when I come down here, naturally this should be the ground. So I'm going to use my Derwent Inktense, and I'm going to bring down this, or extend this all the way down to the bottom, so that it looks like a complete finished page and it looks more natural. If you would like to follow along with this color along from the beginning to the end, there is a playlist on my channel where you can do that. I will go ahead and link that in the upper right hand corner, and you can also check the description box below where I will have a link where you can download this whole PDF coloring book. This is from Rachel Mintz's coloring book called Friendship, and it's an adorable book. It has all kinds of furry, adorable little animals in it, and it's just really, really cute. I'm really enjoying coloring this page, and I'm excited to see what it looks like when I finish it. If you use my coupon code, you will actually get 33% off, and so the entire book, or the entire digital book, will be only around $3.33. So I think that's a really great deal. You could also purchase it on Amazon, and I'll have the link down in the description box below for that as well. So let's go ahead and start coloring in this background and see what we can come up with. Okay, so these are my NeoColors, and I absolutely love these. And this is the top tray. And let me see if I could just pull this out. This is the bottom tray. These are absolutely wonderful, and you can do so much with them. But of course, today we're going to do a background. I have actually drawn with these and done quite a few other things. I've not gotten to use them that much, but I actually created a flower, and it turned out really, really great. I was so impressed with what these can do. But I did already pick out my colors, so we're going to set this aside. Okay, so I have my Derwent watercolor brush again, and this one is the size 2. If you've been watching this color along all the way through, you know that these brushes come in several different sizes, but this one is a 2, and there are others that come in other sizes. This one here is the 1, and it's a little bit pointier, and you've seen me use these if you've been following along, where I used all of the Derwent Inktense. And then this one is the size 3, and so this one is a little bit wider and bigger. And I don't know, I might use this one a little bit, but I think I'm going to start with the number 2 water brush, just because I like the way this one worked when I tested this out. And I want to make sure I get a really good blend between where the clouds are and where the sky is. So I have 3 colors here, and this one here is light cobalt blue hue, and this one is light blue. And then I have my white, because I just want to mix in some of the white with the lighter blue, and I want to make sure I get a little bit of white behind the darker blue for the sky, just to make sure it looks like the clouds are a little bit connected and it looks kind of like a puffy, cloudy sky. I am going to start with the light cobalt blue, and I'm going to use this just to make some clouds, and I want to make them look quite a bit puffy. So I'm only laying this lighter blue in the areas where I want those clouds. Now when I come back with the darker blue, I'll still be able to go over some of this if I extend it out too much and don't like the way that it looks. So it doesn't matter if I make them too big or something that I don't like. It's much easier to go over with the darker color and blend it in with the water than it is to do the opposite and have too much of the dark. Okay, so now I'm going to take my white and I'm just going to blend the white right into this. And I'm going to make my clouds a little bit extended with this color. And I'm doing this just so it lightens it up just a little bit because the mix of the two colors is going to make a lighter color. Okay, so I have a nice big cloud right here. And I think I'm going to come over here a little bit up to the top and I'm going to make another one just so that they are not exactly one right across from the other and they're like scattered just a little bit. And then I need to make sure that I make them different sizes. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to do this one up a little bit higher. And I want my clouds to look like they are going out just a little bit here. So that's why I'm making that line, because I want them just to kind of blend in when I come in with that darker blue. Okay, and so that one will be a little bit smaller than the other one. And so I'm going to come back and I'm going to do the same thing here. And I'm going to add some of this white right over it. And then I think I want just a little small one up here. So I'm going to draw one up there too, or color one in, I guess. And I think this will make it look just a little bit more natural, kind of like the clouds are coming in this way. And then let's see, maybe a little bit white in here, just so they sort of look a little bit connected, and we've got some white mixed in with the darker blue once I come back in and I add that. I don't know if you can see that on camera, but I can definitely see it, and if it's on your page and you're following along and trying to use these, you'll be able to see it on your page as well. And this is very easy to come in and cover up if I decide I don't want it there. When I come back and I bring the darker blue in. Okay, so I think I need one right over here. And so I'm just going to add some of this in here. And then of course I'm going to go over it with the white. And I just think the clouds are going to look a lot better if they have that white mixed in as well. And then maybe some scattered clouds right in here. Oh, that's the wrong color. Okay, so maybe just a little one right in here. And that one is a little bit of a different shape. Try not to make all of your clouds look the same when you're doing this. And of course, I am not an artist. I'm just trying to do whatever I think would look good. And I think if I come up here, now that I'm looking at this, I think this needs a little bit of the lighter blue just right in the center. And I think that will look really good once I come in and I add that water. And then maybe just a little in here. And I think that I probably just want the clouds going right along here, up at the top, and maybe come over here and add a little bit more white to this one and make it go up a little bit more. Okay, so I think all my clouds are placed where I want them. And so now I'm going to come back with my darker blue, which was light blue, and I'm going to add some of this just all in and around where I have that white on the outside. And now I'm going to be able to start seeing these clouds form. And so I'll be able to make adjustments as I come in here and see the shape of the clouds much clearer now that I have a frame around them. I think that looks good. And then a little bit just right in above here. Okay, so I think I like that. And then we want to come down over this way. I think I'm going to go ahead and speed this part up to music, and you'll be able to see exactly where I'm laying all of the colors, but I need to be able to concentrate just to make sure that I don't mess up. I want to be able to focus without having to talk through it. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now so you could just sort of watch it all come together and actually see the shape of the clouds. Clouds in the places where I think that they look best, and I made sure that I did more of the lighter blue and the white in bigger spaces, and a lot of the darker blue I used a lot less of it, so that way if I start to add the water and I realize that I laid too much of the lighter blue and the white, or too many clouds, or made the clouds too big without enough spacing between each and every one of them, I can always come back with the darker color and I can correct it. And I wanted to make sure I did it that way so that I didn't end up where I had too much of the darker color, because it is not as easy to come back and just fix that. So this is what we have so far. And when I came down here to these areas, I took all three colors and I sort of blended them together and went over them in certain spaces. Like over here, you could see I blended a lot of the lighter blue with the white and the darker blue, because as I come down the page, I want the colors just to sort of look a little bit lighter, and in the areas in between the clouds, I want it to be quite a bit darker, just to frame the clouds and make them stand out quite a bit more. Now, when you come in with the water, you will be able to shape them a little bit more. And I also went around the clouds and I added in some different colors. Like here, after I looked at it all together, I noticed that I went up a little bit too far on this cloud, so I did come back and I blended a little bit of the darker blue in here, just to give the background, or the spaces in between the clouds, a little bit more space, and to create a little bit more contrast between the clouds and the sky. And you can see I did the same thing all up in here by this cloud, and so it'll sort of look like the sky is kind of going into the cloud when I start adding some water. And of course, like I said, when I start adding the water, I'll be able to move the color around just a little bit and make sure it's only in the spaces that I want it. And I wanted the clouds to sort of look like they were kind of coming together a little bit in certain places and make it look a little bit more natural. So I only came down to here, and I need to finish it and go right to about here. And then after I get down to here, of course, later I'm going to come back with my Derwent ink tints, and I'm going to make all this bottom part look like this sand does here, or this dirt, and I'm just going to pull it all the way down just so it looks a little bit more natural. I don't want my sky coming all the way down in here to where the ground should be, and I want to see, or I still haven't decided yet what I want to do about the writing on here. I might try to white it out. I don't know what I'm going to do with that yet. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to start blending some of the light blue together with some of the other colors. And I think I'm going to speed it up again while I do some of this. And y'all could just watch it all come together as I lay the colors down. Finished all of this side. You can see that I just blended in all three colors. So I've got the light blue, and then this light cobalt blue, and then my white, and I just blended them all in with one another, just so that I could create a little bit of a lighter color as I come down towards the bottom. And then when I came down here, I added a lot of the lighter blue just because I want this to be a very smooth transition when I come back in here and I complete the sand or the dirt that is down here and finish this whole entire bottom section. But I want a really nice blend between the two of them. So now I'm going to come over here and I just have to finish just this right here, and then we're going to come back and we're going to add the water. So I want to make sure in the areas where I get closer to the bunny, like around his little hand here, I'm trying to make sure I have a lot of my lighter color in those areas where I'm closer to the actual objects on the coloring page. And then I could always come back and blend some of the other colors right into it. I'm going to blend a little bit of this white all around the bunny's little hand here, and then I'm going to go ahead and come in with this darker blue. And then when I come back and I add the water, they'll all mix together very nicely. And then I'm going to add my lighter blue and just sort of blend this in, and then some white. So when I add the water, the colors will spread and they'll be more movable. And I'm just going to come in here and add a little bit of this darker blue just to create a nice blend of these colors again. I think I'm going to come over here with the lighter blue, or the lightest blue. It's hard because I keep calling this one light blue because it is the lightest blue, but the darker blue is actually called light blue. So all over here around the grass area, I'm going to lay a lot of this all in and around here, and then down here where I want a really smooth transition into the ground or into where the dirt's going to be, I want a lot of this lighter color. And then I'm just going to blend in some of the darker color as well, like I did before. And then the water will help me to get a really good blend of all of the colors. And if you're following along with this tutorial, you don't have to do it exactly the way that I do it. You never have to do anything exactly the way that I do it, but I don't know, I just come up with things and do them, and if I like the way something is coming together, then I just continue to do more of it. And like I said earlier, I did test a lot of this out, and I didn't complete another copy of it. I just tested a lot of the techniques out, and I tested out my clouds to see where I was going to want them laid and where they were going to look best. And I didn't actually test this out where I'm mixing a lot of the different colors together. I just started doing it and thought that it would look much better, just so that it has a mixture of the colors or a blend of all of the colors together, rather than just being all one color as we come down out of the clouds. And then I think I'm gonna go over a lot of this with my white. I'm just trying to blend some of these colors out with the white. And now I have I keep calling it light blue. It's called light cobalt blue because one is light cobalt blue and the other one is just light blue. And if you all follow along with this and you try to make your own clouds, I would love to see it. If you want to share it in my Facebook group, I would love to see what you come up with. And remember, this is my first time ever doing this, so we are learning together. I think that it's probably time to come back and start working on some of these clouds and adding some water to them so that we could see how they are going to come together and if all of the colors are exactly where I want them. So this is the big test to see if I did this right. And I'm looking over here and it looks like I might need to add a little bit more of the darker blue. So after you have everything laid down, you want to just stop doing whatever you're doing and you want to pull back and you just want to look at the page as a whole. Sometimes I will actually take my phone and I'll snap a picture of it, and it just makes it much easier for me to be able to look at the page as a whole by looking at a picture to see whether or not I want to keep doing something or I want to change something, especially when you're using a medium like this, so that way before you come back and you start adding the water, you can see if everything is exactly where you want it to be, and you just get a much better visual as a whole by looking at the whole thing as it's come together. So make sure that you have a scratch piece of paper off to the side when you're doing this. I think that I'm going to start with my Derwent number 2, and this is what this one looks like. That's what the tip looks like. And I just want to make sure that I'm using the brush that is a little bit thicker. This one's a little bit thicker than the number 1. And I want to make sure that when I'm coming around here and pulling these clouds into the darker blue, I want to make sure that I'm able to do that and my tip is not too thick. So that's why I'm not using the number 3. So I wet my brush and I'm going to come in here and I'm going to start in the center where I've got the lighter colors. And I think I need a little bit more water than that because I really want this pigment to be able to move around and these colors to blend nicely. But I'm just going to start with the clouds. And you can see as I move this around how easy it is for the color to move. And you can just sort of form the clouds as you pull it into the darker color. And once you come into the darker color, you want to make sure that you wipe your brush off before you come back into the lighter color. And with these, it is nice if you just go over your darker color and kind of pull it into the lighter color just a little bit for the outer part of the clouds, because it just makes them look a little bit more natural as they're coming into the sky. And I think I have that one looking how I want it to look. I'm going to pull this down just a little bit just to get some of that darker color in there, just to create that contrast all the way to the edge of the paper. And I think that looks really good so far. And you could see how I've got different colors in my cloud because I mixed some of the white in there with my lightest blue. And that's what's going to make it look a little bit more natural, because clouds are not always exactly the same colors. They do generally have other colors mixed in, like sometimes some grays and lighter blues and darker grays and darker blues. And you could see how I'm just kind of moving my brush around in this swiggly motion so that I could just bring the colors together and still be able to see where the clouds are. Oh, I love how this one's looking. And now I'm just gonna pull into here and spread all of this color out within the cloud. I think it looks pretty natural so far. And right up in here, I've got this really tiny little cloud, and these two are barely connected, and it looks like the sky is just coming right over the same cloud right there. And I did that on purpose because I wanted to create that more natural look. See, it's really not that difficult. You just need to experiment a little bit before you take the medium, whatever medium you're using. If it is a new medium that you've never used before, it's just always best to experiment a little bit before you apply that medium or whatever technique you're using to your finished coloring page. I know I hear so many people saying, oh, I want to do a background, but I'm scared that I might mess it up. And I don't know, I feel like that's just perfectly natural to be scared that you might mess something up, especially after all the hard work you have put into your coloring page, and then to fear that you might do something and then you just made all of that work go to waste. But you need to remember too that everything you do is art, and no matter how it looks, it's your art. And so we really should look at it that way. Okay, so I need to wet my brush a little bit more because I need to go over some of this lighter color and pull it up into that darker color there. And really make this cloud stand out so much more. And then I need to do it again down here. So when you're doing this, just make sure you have enough water on your brush, especially when you've got this much of the color just laid all over the place. And again, I'm using the Spring Hill paper, and it is handling this medium very well. It also did a really good job with the Derwent Inktense and the amount of water that I was using for those. See how I'm just sort of moving the color around and making that cloud look a little bit more realistic so that you can actually see it, and then you can come down here and just blend all those colors together. And I'm trying to pull the color up into the cloud just to make the cloud look a little bit more puffy. And I see a lot of spaces here where I never went over it with the water. And I don't even think I went over that small one there. And I didn't. Look how nice that spread out. And this other cloud here, I never went over. And then I need to spread some of this darker color out just a bit more. You could see how when you come back over the colors, they will keep moving around even more and more. And you could just keep coming back and playing with your clouds until you really are happy with the way that they look. And I think I'm getting too much of that darker color here, so I'm gonna go back over this and pull it down a little bit. See how that just blended right out there? See how I'm still able to pull that white into the darker color? I love these NEOCOLORs. They are so neat. You could see the white and the lighter blue is still spreading into some of these other colors, and it's just making the clouds look much more natural. Okay, so I think I really like how my clouds look, but let me come over here and just touch some of this up, and I need to start coming down into these other colors, and I'm just going to use a circular motion to do that with my brush. And you could see where I added some of the colors and mixed them together. You could see how all the colors are just very nicely coming together now. And I'm going to brush off my brush and just come into here where I'm closest to the bunny, because I don't want to get that in my bunny. So I'm just coming over here to just pull that color down and around where it's framing the bunny. I think I love this more than I thought I would. I really love how it's coming together. Okay, so I'm gonna finish this up, and I'm going to speed it up to music so y'all can just see it all come together. This side, and so now we just need to come over here and finish this side here. And I have noticed with these that after you play around with them for a little while and sort of get a feel for how much water they require to get the effect that you need, it is much easier. And I've noticed that some of this over here where I came in with the outliner with my Derwent Inktense, like for the little antennas on the butterfly, I've noticed that that spread just a little bit, so I think I'm going to try to come back in there with my blues and maybe go over that a little bit and hopefully kind of get rid of some of that. We'll see what happens. And I'm going to brush off my brush because I want to come in here a little bit closer to the bunny. And no. Let's just blend it out a little there. But yeah, the Derwent Inktense are supposed to be permanent once you lay them down. And in some spaces, it seems to be reactivating. So I'm just going to go right over that. Don't ever worry if you feel like, you make a mistake. Don't ever freak out or whatever, because you can always come back and fix everything just like I did there. I'm just going to try to blend a lot of this out, going in this circular motion. And after I get all of this done and completed, I'm going to probably take a picture of it so I could get a better visual idea of how it looks as a whole, just like I explained earlier. That just kind of helps me to pull everything together with my eyes, I guess. And I will look at the picture and then see if there's any areas that I can improve upon or change a little bit. And I was even thinking of trying to go to my set and find a darker blue and maybe even blend some of the darker blue into certain areas at the top where I have the clouds. I don't know yet. We'll see what I end up doing. I never really know. Those of you that have been watching me for a really long time, you know that when I start something, I never know where I'm going with it or how it's going to turn out. And I just kind of go with it. If I find something that works, I'll just continue with that. If I try something and it doesn't work, I'll just try to fix it or go over it or improve upon it. I would think that a lot of us are that way. And some of this doesn't look like it's blended in well enough. You can, with these, actually see, like over in here, you could tell that I didn't go over it with any water. It just looks just a little bit different. And you can see that it is blending in now and it looks really good. And you can really see the blend of the colors and how they're all coming together. You could see the white and the lighter blue and the darker blue. That darker blue that's actually called light blue. They're all very light shades of blue, but they come together so beautifully. And I want to make sure it looks a little bit more natural over here around these little mushrooms here. And I'm trying to be very careful I don't come into any areas again where, see what I did? You know what, there may have been some spots that I didn't go over with water, and so that is why they're activating like that. But it is very easily fixable. And I'm probably getting a lot of this on my mat, but that doesn't bother me. That's what it's there for. And then over here where that green sort of got pulled from the grass, where I probably didn't go over it initially, I'm just going to take some blue and add it right in there. And it'll just go right back over the top like it did before. So not to worry. And then I'm just going to blend all of this in just a little bit more. There's still a lot of spaces that it looks like I missed. So I just want to make sure all the colors are coming together nicely and they look like they're blended out. And it's probably because I initially didn't have enough water on my brush, but this paper is doing pretty well with this medium, but I think it does require a little bit more water. So you can see, I've actually filmed this video over a couple day span. And so you can see that the paper is sort of pilling up just a little bit, or crinkling or turning like over here. And they look much better, or this, the NEOCOLORs actually look much better when more water is applied. And we've used a lot of water on this paper because y'all know I used quite a bit as well when I was activating the ink tints. And I think this looks really cool how I'm bringing some of the darker color up into these clouds. And it's making the clouds stand out and look just a little bit puffier. It looks like I need to fix some of this down in here, and I need to be very careful. I think I'm actually going to do it this way. So let me just go ahead and take some of that blue. And this is the lightest blue, but I just want to be able to get some of this down in here. And there are different ways that you can use these. You can put the brush to the tip of the NEOCOLOR, and see, my green is spreading again, but that's okay. I'm gonna get a little bit, instead of pulling, I'm just gonna tap a little bit to get some of that blue in there. Maybe I'll put a little bit of the darker blue. That looks a little bit better. And maybe it'll go right over that green. And it did. I definitely don't want to pull that red out. Red is probably a little bit more difficult to cover. And then get this blue all in and around these little mushrooms here. And that seems to be working quite a bit better. And then over here, I got to get in here around this, around the bunny's tail. And pulling the color like this directly from the NEOCOLOR, it seems to pull in a lot more color. I think that's probably a little bit too dark for that area up there. So let me go ahead and grab some of the lighter color and see if I can Oh, look how it blends right in. Oh, that works really, really well. It almost gives it a different effect. It looks more like a solid color right in here than it does in all of the other areas where it looks a little bit more blotchy, but I don't know if blotchy is a great word, but I like the way that it looks a lot better over here rather than it being a solid color like that. Let me see if I could add some white in there and fix it just a little bit. There we go. Okay, so if I wanted to, I can come in and just add some more white and make the clouds look even better by just adding this white all around in different places. Doing it this way, it seems to be covering that blue right up, even with the white. So yeah, see, I just learned something new. And that's what happens when you just play around with the different mediums. If you just play around with them, you'll be able to see on your own exactly what they can do. So I think as far as the tutorial goes, I think it's pretty complete. I'm probably going to come back and do a little more to this because I want to give it a much more natural look. And now that I discovered I could take this white and do the method where I just touch the tip to the white and it seems to cover a lot better, I think I'm going to come in and just add a little bit more white over here on this side and over here on this side, and I might go back and see if I can get a darker blue and possibly darken up a little bit of the spaces in between just to make it look a little bit more natural. But I have to see what I have in my set. And don't ever be afraid to experiment with any new medium that you're using because that's how you learn how to use them. And I don't consider myself an artist, but I think my clouds came out really, really nice. And I love how this turned out. I just need to come back and just finish off this bottom section here so the whole page can just come together now, where it sort of meets into the background where we have this dirt or sand here. And I think I'm gonna have to be really, really careful because I'm using two different water mediums and I wanna make sure that they sort of come together with a very smooth transition. And the colors are very different than one another. So I'll figure out how to get that done. And as soon as it is totally complete, I will post an official picture in my Facebook group. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial on how to make a cloud background with your NEOCOLOR 2s. This was so super fun to me and I love the way that it turned out. Everything that you've seen me use in this video will, as always, be linked down in the description box below, and I will see you in the next video. Happy coloring. Bye.